Okay, so today we are going to look at some function notation. So we're just going to start off with the basics today and see what function notation actually is. So we know a function is a bit like an equation. So we're used to seeing things like y equals 2x plus 5 as an example of a linear function. And we know that makes a straight line if we were to plot that on a graph. Now, other types of functions we know about are quadratic ones, where you've got x squared plus a value of x plus 3. A cubic, where you've got an x cubed plus an x squared plus a x minus something or plus something. A reciprocal, where it's something over x. An exponential, where you've got something to the power of x. And you might remember this, you might not. A circular function, where you've got an x squared plus a y squared equals something, and that will give you a circular function. So they're all the functions that we might know about already, and they're the types of graphs that they link up with. What we're going to do is we're going to look at it in sort of a more formal way, something called function notation. And it's not too different, but rather than writing y equals in the function, we're going to use f brackets x. And that basically reads as f of x. Okay, so we're going to be doing the function of x, f of x, or g of x, or h of x, or k of x. We could use any letter in front. Okay, so here we've got an equation y equals 2x plus 3, and we could say that could also be written as f of x equals 2x plus 3. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at 4 examples about how on earth we're going to use this and why we use this. So here's the sort of prime question we will be asked. F of x equals 3x minus 7. What is the value of f of 4? Now this basically just turns into a substitution lesson now, because all we're going to do is we're going to say, right, so f of 4 equals 3x minus 7. Okay, now instead of x now, what we're going to do is, because we got the 4 in those brackets, that's basically just telling us the value of x is 4. So we're going to say, right, well, so that's 3 times by 4, and then we take away that 7. So we've got 12 minus 7, so our answer is just going to be 5. Okay, and that's it. So pause the video and have a go at the second one yourself. It's a bit tricky because it's got a negative number in it, but it's still the same principle, so have a go yourself at that. Okay, so you've had a go at that, so let's have a look at our answer. So f of minus 5 equals 3x minus 7. So we're going to do 3 times by, well, x is minus 5 because that's what's in the brackets, and then minus 7. So 3 times minus 5, well, a positive times a negative is always a negative. So we've got minus 15. Take away another 7, that would give me an answer of minus 22. Wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay. So they're my first 2 answers. Now, if we look at the next ones, they're starting to get a bit trickier because it's got f brackets 9, so f of 9 plus then 2. Okay. And the thing is, we're just going to do f of 9 first. We're going to ignore the plus 2 until the very end. Okay. So f 9 equals 3x minus 7. So we're going to do 3 times by that 9 and then minus the 7. So 3 times 9 is 27, minus the 7 is 20. Okay. But then we had this plus 2 on the end, so now we go through that stage of plussing 2. So my answer is 22. And the final one, 2f bracket 6. Okay, so again, I'm going to leave that 2 till the very end. Okay, so that just means we've got 2 lots of this function, so I'm just going to leave that till the very end. So I'm going to treat it as f of 6 equals 3x minus 7. So I'm going to do 3 times by 6 and then minus 7. So 3 times 6 is 18, minus 7. So at the moment I'm on 11, but I've got 2 lots of it, so I'm going to do 2 times 11, which gives me an answer of, apologies, 22. Okay, and that's my answer. And that's it. Okay, it's basically just substitution at this basic stage. Okay, it will get trickier, but not in today's lesson. It's just going to stick with substitution. So there's some of our answers, which we've just gone through. So here, you got some questions to try. Now, I'd suggest trying about 5 of these. Okay, and you can see they're not all the same letter. So, for example, if I chose this question here to try, that's g of 5. Now, I need to look at my functions at the top here. Well, I've got f of x, g of x, and h of x. Now, obviously, if I'm doing a question where it's g brackets g of 5, I'm probably going to be using that g function. If I'm doing something with the letter f, I'll use the f function. If I'm doing something with the letter h, I'll use the h function. Okay. Now, the ones I've highlighted in red, they are slightly trickier than the other ones, so try those if you want a bit of a challenge. But as I said, sort of try about 5 of them. So pause the video, try 5 of them, and when you're ready, press play. Okay, so hopefully you got on with those okay. So here are the answers. So just check you've got those correct. And then a next task, okay, is we're going to do a bit of a code breaker. A bit of fun, tells a bit of a fun joke. So what you're going to do is you've got your questions on the right here, okay, on the right over here. Here's your questions. So you've got f of 7, so you go over to the left, use your function, f function there, substitute the value of 7 in it, get your answer, and find your answer on that grid. So say it gave you an answer of 9, okay, I don't think it, coincidentally it does. So it gives you an answer of 9, okay, so that means our first word is something, okay. So we'll write that in there, and then we move on to the next question, and so on. Okay, hope you enjoy the joke. I hope it makes you laugh. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for episode 2.